Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Amit Prabhu. Wonderful, amazing kirtan. Would like to hear more and more from you, Prabhu. It is so soothing and amazing to hear this kirtan from you. Thank you very much, Birgish Prabhu, for engaging him in the service of Srila Prabhupada. Thanks once again. So, Hare Krishna. So, welcome all the devotees for today's Chaitanya Charitamrita study class. So, today we are going to have our grace Sacipremi Prabha Mataji to continue Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila from 6th chapter, 81 verse onwards. Mataji, over to you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Am I audible, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. So Hare Krishna Prabhujis and Matajis. So welcome to our Chaitanya Charitamrita class. So we'll start with Mangala Charan prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. आजानुलम्बित भुजौ कनकावदातौ संकीर्तनकैपितरौ कमलायताक्षौ विश्वम्भरौ द्विजवरौ युगधर्मपालौ वन्दे जगत्प्रियकरौ करुणावतारौ जयो जयो श्री चैतन्य जयो नित्यानंद जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद जयो जयो श्री चैतन्य जयो नित्यानंद जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद जयो जयो श्री चैतन्य जयो नित्यानंद जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, my Diksha Guru and my Siksha Guru, and all the devotees present here, so that I'll speak the right words according to the Parampara. So Hare Krishna Prabhujis and Matajis. So today I'll be summarizing from verse number Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila chapter 6 verse number 81 onwards. So today's content is I felt very important for myself, because very important thing what Gopinath Acharya establishes here, that mercy of Lord. So even though you try in many ways, if you don't have the mercy of Lord, then you can't achieve anything. So that's what Gopinath Acharya is mentioning in so many set of verses. I think from 80 to 95 verses. So these are some of the, which Gopinath Acharya says, and further he gives evidence also why Mahaprabhu has to be accepted as Krishna, why he is not different from Krishna. He gives many evidences. So let us start with the verses. So verse number 81. So previously we have seen how Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya proposes to recite Vedanta Sutra, and when he asked Gopinath Acharya to which cult Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was from whom he has taken sannyasi, and what are the different sects of sannyasis, who is the higher. Even last week Shyam Sundar Leela Prabhu has explained very well. So from today we'll be continuing from verse number 81. शिष्य कहे ईश्वर तत्व साधी अनुमाने, आचार्य कहे अनुमान नहीं ईश्वर जाने ज्ञाने. The disciples of Bhaṭṭācārya said, we derive knowledge of the absolute truth by logical hypothesis. Purport. by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Gopinathacharya replied, one cannot attain real knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by such logical hypothesis and argument. Okay, so we all know that there are three ways of understanding. So one is through Shabda Pramana, second one is through Anumana Pramana, and third one is Pratyaksha Pramana. So here, the disciples of Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya, they're saying that Ishvara Tattva you can understand only by through Anumana, that is hypothesis. But through hypothesis also, we cannot understand about the Lord. So that's what we can understand, because it is a explanation made on the basis of limited evidence as a starting point for further investigation. It is not a full proof. And even Pratyaksha Pramana also is not considered as the best, because even sometimes it may be correct, it may not be correct. So the only Pramana which we are supposed to follow is to Shruti Pramana, means whatever we have heard, as Sutta Goswami says to Saunaka Rishis, whatever I have heard, I'll speak the same thing. So Shruti Pramana is considered as the topmost. So here Prabhupada explains in the purport about the Mayavada philosophers. So Mayavada philosophers always, in particular, make certain hypotheses about the absolute truth. So they believe in the Lord, but they do not accept that this great power to be a person, because we all know that the Mayavada philosophers, they don't believe in the form of the Lord. And here further Prabhupada makes a very big statement saying that their brains cannot accommodate the fact that the huge cosmic manifestation can be created by a person, because they think a person similar to us. So how can a person can create in such a way? So that was the reason which will be given by the Mayavadi philosophers. And even further Prabhupada says that the Mayavadis do not understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a spiritual body, because Lord says in Bhagavad Gita that he comes in Sambhavami Atma Maya. Atma Maya means by his own internal potency he comes to this material world just to take care of us. So that is the reason, otherwise he doesn't come to this material world. And further Prabhupada says that they think of Krishna as a great personality, a human being with whom there is a supreme impersonal power called as Brahman. So they consider the Brahman as the topmost, and that is a conclusion which was given by the Mayavada philosophies. And so even Prabhupada says that how from Shastras we can understand that the Brahman effulgence also comes from Krishna. So here Prabhupada gives the reference from Brahma Samhita, Yasya Prabhavato Jagadanda Koti. So even this Brahman effulgence is also comes from the bodily rays of Krishna. And the same thing even in Bhagavad Gita 14.27, Lord says Brahmano hi pratishtaham. So even the Brahman, whatever they consider, that also comes from the Lord. So these are the different evidences which are given to say that whatever the Mayavadi philosophers are thinking that through logical hypothesis they can understand. No, they cannot understand the Lord. So even further Prabhupada says that the Mayavada philosophers study the Vedic literature, but they do not understand that in the last stage of realization of the absolute truth is the Supreme Personality. So we know there are different stages of understanding Lord, the Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti Shabdyate. So to understand that Bhagavan is the last stage of realization, for them it is very difficult, because they are based on the hypothesis only. And one more, a very nice analogy is given by Prabhupada in this context, saying that the Mayavada philosopher's logic is something like seeing smoke on a hill and concluding that there is a fire. When there is a forest fire and a high hill, smoke is first of all visible. Since it is known that smoke is created when there is fire, from seeing the smoke on the hill, one can conclude that a fire is burning there. Similarly, from seeing the cosmic manifestation, the Mayavada philosophers conclude that there must be a creator. So they understand that there must be a creator, but they don't accept that he is impersonal. So that is what the same thing here. The disciples of Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya, so they wanted evidence, so that the creator of the cosmic manifestation is a person. So then only they will accept. So that's what they say. So Gopinatha Acharya replied that one could not understand Supreme Personality of Godhead by guesswork. So it is very difficult to understand. So and Prabhupada quotes here very famous verse from 7.25. Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavritah. So Lord doesn't manifest to those type of who are unintelligent people. So Lord says because so the deluded world knows me not, who am unborn and infallible. The Supreme Personality of Godhead reserves the right of not to be exposed to the non-devotees, and he can only be understood by the bona fide devotees. So that's what even Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati 18.55, that only great devotees can only understand. He may not be highly qualified, but by just surrendering himself, so he can try to understand about the Lord. So that's what here. And very important, one more point Prabhupada highlights over here is that only Guru Krishna Prasadapaye Bhakti Lata Bij. Only by the mercy of Guru, so we can understand about the Lord. By the mercy of Guru and mercy of devotees. So more evidences, there are so many evidences to show that without the mercy of devotee or mercy of Krishna, one cannot understand what Krishna is and what is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this comes in the next verse. Verse number 82. Anumana pramana nahe Ishvara tattva jnane kripa vina Ishvarera keha nahi jane. Gopinath Acharya continued, one cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead only by His mercy, not by the guesswork or hypothesis. So previously they said we can understand only, disciples were saying that only by hypothesis or anumana. So but here Gopinath Acharya said that no, you cannot understand. So Prabhupada says that one cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by exhibiting some mundane magics. So even we have seen how the way bhaktas understand about the Lord, even for jnanis and yogis, for them to understand about the Lord, because they are on the transcendental platform, but still for them also to understand about the Lord, it takes a lot of time. But for bhaktas, it is very difficult. So further Prabhupada says that foolish people are enchanted by magical demonstrations, and when they say a few wonderful things done by the mystical power, they accept a magician as the personality of Godhead or incarnation. So they think as an incarnation, but they don't understand that he is the ultimate of everything. He is the summum bonum of all, who the absolute truth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So further Prabhupada says that one has to learn from a bona fide person or from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Arjuna did by the mercy of Krishna. So we all know that in Bhagavad Gita also, in the initial, so before at the end of when the war is about to start, so Arjuna was perplexed and he said that he's not in a mood to fight. So then Krishna, we all know that Krishna taught him Bhagavad Gita. So but before Krishna taught him Bhagavad Gita, so what was the situation of Arjuna? Arjuna became his disciple. So Sishyasteham sadhyamam tam prapannam. So by becoming a disciple only, so Arjuna could get the mercy of Krishna. In the same way, so Prabhupada says that one should understand the Supreme Lord through the evidence present in the Shastras and through Mahajana. So we all know that three basic references for us to understand about the Lord is through Guru, Sadhu and Shastras. So because we always know the very famous example quoted by Srila Prabhupada, that how when a mother says to a child that he's your father, the child accepts that he's my father. In the same way, we have to accept the scriptures, because scriptures are none other than which are given by the Lord, and sadhus are the one who followed. Guru sadhus are the one who has followed these shastras, so we should follow under their directions. And very important thing, Mahajanas. So we all know that in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in 3rd chapter, so Yamaraj says that there are 12 Mahajanas, Swayambhu Narada Shambho, Kumaro Kapilo Manu, Prahalado Janako Bhishmo, Balivaya Sakhivayam. So there are 12 Mahajanas, so and we should follow the path of Mahajanas. So there is a verse which was spoken by Yudhishthir Maharaj in the Vana Parva. So the verse number is 313.1.117. So there Yudhishthir Maharaj says, Tarko apratishta sruyato vibhinna nashva rishi yasya matam na bhinnam dharmasya tatvam nihitam guhayam mahajano yena gatasva pantha. So in the translation it is said that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued that dry arguments are inconclusive. A great personality whose opinion does not differ from others is not considered as a great sage. Simply by studying the Vedas, which are variegated, one cannot come to the right path by which religious principles are understood. The solid truth of the religious principles is hidden in the heart of the unadulterated self-realized person. Consequently, as the Shastras confirm, one should accept whatever progress path the Mahajana advocate. So, Mahajano Yena Dina Gatasta, Mahajano Yena Gatasta Pantha. So, we should follow the footsteps of the great Mahajanas. And further, it is last conclusively, Prabhupada says that in any case, one must have the mercy of the Lord, because that is also very important for us. That too by devotional service. So that's what Lord says in 9 chapter 30. Manmana bhav madhyaji mam namaskuru. So that is why that particular verse is considered as the essence of whole Bhagavad Gita. So what you are supposed to do. Further, in verse number 83, ईश्वरेरा कृपालेशा हयाताय हरा सेयिता ईश्वर तत्वा जानी बारे param. The Acharya continued, if one receives but a tiny bit of Lord's favor by dint of devotional service, he can understand the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Gopinath Acharya gives. So in reference to this, I can just cite a small pastime that which we'll be learning in the later chapters. So when Mahaprabhu goes to South India tour in Sri Ranganatha temple, so he sees one illiterate Brahmana. So Brahmana, he doesn't know how to hold the Bhagavad Gita book also in a proper way, because he catches in the opposite ulta way. So, but what does Mahaprabhu observe is that every day, very sincerely, that Brahmana, he sits and he starts going through the verses of Bhagavad Gita, and he starts crying also. So then, after observing that person, that Brahmana, Mahaprabhu asked him, why you're crying? So what is the reason for your crying? So first thing he said that, I'm an illiterate. I don't know how to study, but still I'm following my guru's instruction, and every day I'm keeping Bhagavad Gita in front of me. Then Mahaprabhu asked, why you're crying? What made you to cry in this way? So the essence what he gave is that, in the front page, so when he saw Krishna acting as a Parthasarathi for Arjuna, so by that Mahaprabhu said that you understood whole Bhagavad Gita. So that's what it is said, by a bit of Lord's favor, by dint of devotional service. Even though you have done a little part of devotional service, what is the devotional service he has done? Brahmana, he followed his guru's instructions. So by that he understood. So no need to study whole. It's not like that. So even though you study the whole Bhagavad Gita, if you don't understand the essence of it, so what is the use? So this particular Brahmana, he couldn't study because he is an illiterate, but still he understood the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. So that's what I thought, that I can share this particular pastime. And further, this is a verse quoted from Brahmaji's prayers. Athapite deva padambujavya प्रसादलेशानुगृहीत एव हि जानाति तत्त्वं भगवान् महिम्नो न चान्य एकोऽपि चिरं विचिन्वन्. So, my Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of your mercy, of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate in order to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Veda for many years. So this is a verse quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.29, very famous Brahmaji's prayers. So in the Brahma Samhita also it is mentioned, Vedeshu Durlabham Adhullam Advaita Achyuta Anadi Anantarupam Adhyam Purana Purusham Navayam. I think so. Vedeshu, sorry, I think I forgot that but first two lines. Vedeshu Durlabham Adhurlabham Atma Bhakta. So just by studying the Vedas, we may not understand the Lord in a proper way. So that's what it is. Because even in the 15th chapter, 15th verse of Bhagavad Gita, we know very well. Vedescha sarvasya chaham hridi sanni Vishnu matta smriti jnanam pohanam cha Vedesha sarvai ahmeva vedya vedanta krit veda videva chaham. So, if you, even though you study Bhagavad Gita, but still if you don't understand the essence, that Vedas sarve ahmaya vedya. So, Vedas, everything came from the Lord. So, what is the use? And here Prabhupada is saying that one who is not a pure devotee and who is not engaged in the service of the Lord cannot understand. So we should try ourselves to engage in the service of the Lord. So we all know that engaging the service of the Lord, there are 9 types of services which we can do: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. So out of all those, Shravanam and Kirtanam are considered as the topmost, because the way you hear, the other services follow in the same way. So that's what Lord Brahma confirms, that Vedeshu Durlabham. It is very difficult to understand the Supreme Lord simply through one's studies. Adurlabham Atma Bhakta. However, it is very easy for the devotees to capture the Lord. So here also I just want to share one more story which was spoken by Srila Prabhupada in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. I think initial verses, I think some 9.4 or 5. So once Narada Muni was wandering, and he went to a Brahmana. So the Brahmana asked that, can you ask the Lord when will I come back? So after he said, okay, I'll ask the Lord. The same thing was asked by, I think, a mason or a cobbler. I don't remember. I think cobbler. So then so cobbler also asked the same question to Narada Muni. Narada Muni says, okay, I'll ask the Lord. So then Narada Muni, when he goes to the Lord, he will ask, so who will come first? So then Lord says, the cobbler will come first, then comes the Brahmana. And even Lord says to Narada Muni that if at all they ask you what I am doing, so tell them that I am needling an elephant. Okay. So the Narada Muni, he'll be thinking, why Lord gave such a statement. So then he'll go to that Brahmana and he will tell to the Brahmana that that this is what Lord has told. And then the Brahmana asks Narada Muni, so what is Lord doing? So he says the same thing what Lord has said, that he is needling a elephant. So the Brahmana, he'll get stunned. How can this happen? So he'll be in that particular he will react in such a way. So when the same answer was given by to the cobbler also, cobbler says yes, he can do that. Then Narad Muni wants to clarify. Then he'll ask the cobblers, how can you say that Lord can do anything? So then very nice example will be given by the cobbler, saying that, see, I'm sitting under a banyan tree. So from there'll be so many fruits, and from each fruit there'll be a seed. So from a small seed, when a huge tree can appear, so why can't with a small needle, why can't Lord needle an elephant? So that is the essence. See, the Ramana, he has studied the Vedas, but he couldn't understand the essence of the Vedas. But on the other side, cobbler, he didn't study the Vedas, but by a dint of faith on Lord. So that is why it's very important. Faith on Lord, he understood the whole essence of all the Vedas. That's what even Brahmaji says here, that even though you continue study for Vedas many years, what is the use when you don't understand the essence of all the Vedas? And further, the last part of this, and the next part of the purport, the Lord is known as Ajita. No one can conquer the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the Lord consents to be conquered by his devotees. So in the same chapter, in the 10th canto, in the 14th chapter, there is a very famous verse even spoken by Brahmaji. I just want to quote that verse. So very famous verse, it is said that Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukharityam bhavadiya vartam sthane stitam shrutigatim tanvan manobhe ye prayaso ajito jita api asya taistrilokyam. So here it is said that those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, throw away the process of speculative knowledge and with their body, words and mind, offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, certainly conquer your lordships, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds. So this is what, so in the especially the last line, ye prayaso ajito jita. So Lord is unconquerable. So it's difficult only by through your being in your situation, sthane sthito, being in your social order when you perform your duty and keeping Krishna in the center by your mind, words, and body. So the Lord is conquered. So that's what I felt like quoting here regarding this Ajita, who is unconquerable. Okay, so further Prabhupada quotes a very famous verse from Padma Purana, even we have seen in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu also, that Ata Sri Krishna Namadi na bhaved grahyam indriye sevon mukhe jihvado swayam eva spurat adaha. So Ata Sri Krishna Namadi na bhaved grahyam. So by our imperfect senses, it is very difficult to understand about the Lord. So what? How can we understand about the Lord? Sevon mukhe jihvado. So just by doing service with jihvado, without tongue. So tongue does two types of services. One is eating prasadam, the other one is talking about the Lord and chanting the name of the Lord. So then what happens? Swayam eva spuratyadaha. So in that way only you can understand about the Lord. So this is what, and we all know these Brahmaji prayers were spoken after the Brahma Vimohana Lila has taken place. And here Prabhupada says that Lord Brahma admitted that his own extraordinary power within the universe were not in the least comparable to the unlimited powers of Lord Krishna. So it's very less. If Lord Brahma can mistake in understanding Krishna, what to speak an ordinary person who either misunderstand Krishna or falsely present so-called incarnation of Krishna for their own sense gratification. So we should try to understand Krishna. Only how can we understand? By dint of devotional service. Further, 85 and 86. यद्यपि जगद्गुरु तुम्ही शास्त्रज्ञानवान पृथ्वी ते नाही पंडित तुमर समान ईश्वरेरा कृपालेशा नाही का तुमते अतएव ईश्वर तत्व ना पर जानीते. Gopinath Acharya then addressed Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya. You are a great scholar and a teacher of many disciples. Indeed, there is no other scholar like you on earth. Nonetheless, because you are bereft of even a pinch of Lord's mercy, you cannot understand him even though he is present in your home. So Gopinath Acharya is glorifying actually Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya that you are a great scholar. So indeed, there is no scholar like you on earth. So he actually Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya is a very scholarly person. But further, Gopinath Acharya is saying that you couldn't understand the Lord when He is present in your home because you didn't get the mercy of the Lord. So let us see the next one. So here Gopinath Acharya meant to say that because when Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya saw the Ashtasattvic Vikar in the Lord, so even and when he brought Lord to home, so he thought only as a high class sannyasi, I mean in the order as sannyasi, because sannyasi has to be respected, but he couldn't understand that he is, I mean Lord Mahaprabhu is none other than Lord Krishna himself. That's what he meant to say. Even though he is present in your home, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Next verse number 87. तुम्हारा नाही का दोषा शास्त्रे कहे पांडित्यादि ईश्वर तत्व ज्ञान का भूना है. It is not your fault, it is the verdict of the scriptures. You cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by scholarships. So, understanding the Lord, that's what actually, if you want any material position, so we need to fit to that criteria, and we need certain qualifications, otherwise you won't fit. For bhakti, there is no need of any qualification saying that this is what level you require. No, first is shraddha. You should have a desire, then shraddha, then only Lord will bestow you his mercy so that you can understand about him. And as Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, ye atamam prapadyante tam stateve. So the way you move towards to understand, the same way Lord will reveal to us. So here Prabhupada says that even big scholars cannot understand Krishna, yet they dare to comment on Bhagavad Gita. So we all know there were so many editions of Bhagavad Gita which were floating in the market before Prabhupada wrote Bhagavad Gita as it is. So, but the commentary which was given by the other persons who has written commented on Bhagavad Gita, so they gave their own opinions. So they didn't come according to the Guru Sishya Parampara. So here Prabhupada says that reading Bhagavad Gita means understanding Krishna. Yet we actually see many scholars making blunders in trying to understand Krishna. So how can we understand Krishna? Only by Guru and by mercy of Krishna. So then only we can understand. So and further Gopinath Acharya's statement is confirmed in many places. So Prabhupada quotes from Katha Upanishad, 2 verses from Katha Upanishad, saying that the fact is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Super Soul, cannot be attained simply by explanations, logic, and erudite scholarship. One cannot understand him simply by one's brain substance. So that is what before doing any of our spiritual activity, either by taking class or something. So what we do first, we pray to our Guru so that we get the mercy of our Guru, because we are blinded by the darkness. We don't have knowledge. So Guru only will reveal us the knowledge so that we can understand about Krishna in a proper way. So further Prabhupada says, even by studying all the Vedic literature, one cannot understand. So that's what we have seen. Only if he is slightly favored by the mercy of the Lord. So the Lord reveals himself to the sincere devotees when he is pleased with his service. Swayam eva spurat adaha. So, and one should not try to understand Lord simply from the statement of the Vedas, nor should one uselessly attempt to decry the statements through reason and logic. So, mainly, Prabhupada is stressing over here that only by devotional service and by mercy of Lord. सार्वभौमा कहे आचार्य कहा सावधाने तुम आते ईश्वर कृपाई इति के प्रमाणे. Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya replied, my dear Gopinath Acharya, please speak with great care. What is the proof that you have received the mercy of the Lord? So because previously when Gopinath Acharya said you couldn't understand the Lord even though you are an erudite scholar, even the Lord was present in your home. So Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya is asking, because they want some proof that how can you say that you received the mercy of the Lord. Then Gopinath Acharya says, आचार्य कहे वस्तु विषये हया वस्तु ज्ञान वस्तु तत्व ज्ञान हया कृपते प्रमाण. Gopinath Acharya replied, knowledge of the summum bonum, the absolute truth, is evidence of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So, knowledge of the Lord, absolute truth, because Lord Krishna is everything. Everything comes from him. So, if the absolute truth is evidence of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Just we'll read what Prabhupada says. So even though we know that in Bhagavatam, there are 12 cantos and there are 10 subject matters. So all the other 9 subject matters depend upon one subject matter, that is Ashraya, which comes in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, because Lord Krishna is the Ashraya for all the others. So that's what we can understand, that Lord Krishna is the summum and bonum. Purport, Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya informed his brother-in-law Gopinath Acharya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead may not have shown mercy to me, but what is the proof you are having? So then Gopinath Acharya replied that said that the summum bonum, absolute truth, and his different potencies are identical. So Parasha Shaktir Vividaya Shuyate. So there are multiple energies of the Lord, So which act? So Lord Krishna doesn't act directly, but he acts through his different energies. That's what we have seen in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. In the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita also we have seen. So therefore one can understand the substance of the absolute truth by the manifestation of the different potencies. So the summum bona includes all potencies in one unit. The absolute truth combined with the different characteristics is the original substance, vastu, that is Parasya Shaktir Vividaya Shruyate. So that's what Prabhupada always says that. So don't be curious to read 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So before reading 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we should go step by step. So starting with first canto, second canto, because in first canto and second canto, sarga, and after that in the third canto visarga. Is in this way, so we can understand how different energies of the Lord are working in the creation of this material world. So everything in a detail it is mentioned. So we should try to understand about the Lord starting from the bottom. So that's what it is said. And further, Prabhupada says that thus the Vedas state that the absolute truth has different potencies. When one understands the characteristics of the potencies of the absolute truth, one is aware of the absolute truth. So first we should understand what is the power of the absolute truth. And on the material platform, one can understand the substance of the material manifestation of symptoms. So further, Prabhupada gives a very good example saying that when there is heat, it is to be understood that there is fire. So without fire, no heat, and smoke also doesn't come. So in the same way, the fire may not be visible, but one can search about the fire by feeling the heat. So that's what Prabhupada gives a comparison. So one can perceive the characteristics of absolute truth. We can understand, we can know that we have understood. So if we understand the characteristics, so how everything works under the direction of the Lord. Lord says, Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti, everything works under his direction. So when you understand this, then you can understand that Lord Krishna is the supreme and everything works under him. That means you have received the mercy of the Lord. And further again, the same verse Prabhupada quotes that Naham Prakasha Sarvasya. So it's not easy to understand about Lord Krishna in full, but whatever you have understood, you should have faith and you should try to read more scriptures under the guidance of in a parampara so that you can understand about the Lord. So further, Prabhupada concludes saying that the absolute truth cannot be understood by speculation, and that is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. So by speculation method, we cannot understand about the Lord. So verse number 90, Gopinath, Inhara Sarira Sabha Ishvara Lakshana Mahapremya Vesha Tumi Panacha Darshanam. Gopinath Acharya continued, you have seen the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during his absorption in an ecstatic mood. Because we all know that when Mahaprabhu went to take darshan of Lord Jagannath, so even Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya was also present there, and he could see the Ashtasattvic Vikar which took place in the body of the Lord, but he couldn't understand. So that's what Gopinath Acharya is mentioning. You have seen the symptoms, but you couldn't understand, and that he is Lord. ताबूता ईश्वर ज्ञान नाहय तुम्हारा ईश्वरे रमाया बलि व्यवहारा. Despite directly perceiving the symptoms of the Supreme Lord in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you cannot understand him. This is commonly called illusion. So we all know that we have 4 defects being a conditioned soul. So one of that is illusion. So even Gopinath Acharya is saying that we couldn't understand because due to illusion. This is commonly called as illusion. And further, Prabhupada mentions in the purport that Gopinath Acharya is pointing out that Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya has already seen uncommon symptoms in ecstasy in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he has seen, but he couldn't understand. These uncommon symptoms of ecstatic love indicated the Supreme Person. But despite have seeing all the symptoms, Bhattacharya could not understand the transcendental nature of the Lord. And he was considering the Lord pastimes to be mundane. So Lord's pastimes are never mundane. They are always on the spiritual platform. Further, verse number 92. देखिला ना देखे तारे बहिर्मुख जना सुनी हासी सार्वभौमा बलिला वचना. A person influenced by the external energy is called as Bahirmukha Jana, a mundane person, because despite of his perception, he cannot understand the real substance. Hearing Gopinatha Acharya says this, Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya smiled and began to speak of follows. Okay, so here actually when Gopinath Acharya said that this is illusion, so here it is said that hearing Gopinath Acharya is saying that a person who is influenced by the external energy, so he cannot understand about the Lord because he is under that control. So then Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya, he will speak in the next verse. But before that, what Prabhupada quotes here, that how we can understand about the Lord. So Prabhupada has quoted a verse from Bhagavad Gita in 7 chapter 28 saying that when one's heart is not cleansed, one cannot awaken the transcendental nature of devotional service. As Lord Krishna confirms in Bhagavad Gita, Eshwantam Antagatam Papam Jananam Punya Karmana Te Dvandva Moha Nirmukta Bhajante Mam Dridhavrataha. So persons who have acted piously in previous life and in this life whose sinful actions are completely eradicated are freed from dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. Bhajante Mam. So who don't have any account, everything is cleared, so they dvanda nirmukta, without any duality. So the such type of devotees, bhajante mam dridhavrata, they engage in my service with great determination. So Prabhupada further says that when one is actually engaged in pure devotional service, it is to be understood that he has already attained freedom from all sinful reactions. Because I think in the 9th chapter, in the 30th verse of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada writes, 930 or 31, I don't remember. So Prabhupada says the way once he starts chanting the name of Hare Krishna, so already the purification process will start taking place. Same thing here Prabhupada mentions that already attained free because purificatory process is going on. In other words, it will be understood that the devotees are already freed from sins. A sinful person, that is Dushkriti, cannot engage. So we all know that in Bhagavad Gita, Lord mentions who are the 4 types of Dushkritis who cannot surrender to Lord. Now, they cannot engage in devotional service simple on basis of scholarly speculation, because speculation is not the right way to understand about the Lord. Again, Prabhupada says the same thing, only by the mercy of the Lord in order to render pure devotional service. We have to wait to get the mercy of the Lord. Further in verse number 93, इष्टागोष्ठी विचारा करी ना करी हरोषा शास्त्रे दृष्टया कही किछु ना लाई दोषा. Then Bhaṭṭācārya said, we are just having a discussion among friends and considering the points describing in scriptures. Do not become angry. I am simply speaking on the strength of the Shastras. So please do not take any offense. So Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya saying that we are just discussing, considering the points, and he understood that Gopinath Acharya got angry. So he's saying that don't become angry, I'm just speaking on the basis of Shastras. So that's what he says. Further 94, Mahabhagavata Haya Chaitanya Gosani Yei Kale Kale Vishnura Avatara Nahi. So, in this verse, actually, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is certainly a great uncommon devotee, but we cannot accept him as an incarnation of Lord Vishnu because, according to the Shastra, there is no incarnation in the age of Kali. So, this is the evidence which was given by Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya, because when Gopinatha Acharya said that he is none other than Lord, the Supreme Personality, so because Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya, everything wants a Shastric reference. So he's saying that there is no incarnation. According to Shastras, there is no incarnation in the age of Kali. So how can we accept him? So that was the point which was raised by Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya. So in connection to that, the answer we'll see. Oh, no, one more by Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya. अतएव त्रियुगकरी कहि विष्णु नामा कलियुग अवतारा नाही शास्त्र ज्ञान. So another name of Lord Vishnu is Tri Yuga, because there is no incarnation of Lord Vishnu in Kali Yuga. Indeed, this is the verdict of the revealed scriptures. So here he's saying that because we all know that in every yuga Lord comes. So it's mentioning that in this Kali Yuga, there is no incarnation. So that he is quoting the Shastra Pramana, that this is the verdict of the revealed scriptures. So for this, Prabhupada quotes a very famous verse which was spoken by Prahlad Maharaj. So Prabhupada says that the other name of Lord Vishnu is also Tri Yuga, which means that he manifested in the other three yugas, that Satya, Treta, Dwapara. And this means that age of Kali, Lord appears not directly but in a disguised form. That's what even um, Prahlad Maharaj says, that is your Itham Nretriya Rishi Deva Jasavatair Vai Lokan Vibhavayasi Hamsi Jagat Pratipan Dharmam Mahapurusha Pasi Yuganuvratam Channa Kalo Yad Abhavas Triyugo Athasatvam. So here Prahlad Maharaj says that, my lord, you kill all the enemies of the world in your multifarious incarnations in the families of men, animals, demons, rishi, aquatics, and so on. Thus you illuminate the world with transcendental knowledge. In the age of Kali, O Mahapurusha, you sometimes appear in a covered incarnation. Therefore, you are known as Three Yuga, one who appears in other three yugas. Because we all know that in every incarnation, so Lord used some of the other weapon, okay, but in this particular Kali Yuga, Lord did not use any weapon. He just came as a bhakta to give bhakti to all the what do you say, conditioned souls. So even further, Sridhar Swami has also verified that Vishnu appeared in the Kali Yuga, but it is not as an act. He does in other ages. Yeah, Lord Vishnu incarnates for two purposes. We all know, Paritrayana Sadhuna Vinasaya cha Dushkritam. That is, he comes to engage in a pastime with his devotees and annihilate the demons. So we all know, actually, one of the reason for Mahaprabhu's appearance is that, as Lord Krishna spoke in Bhagavad Gita and the last chapter, that 18.66, Sarvadharman Parityajya. So Lord wants to show by himself as an example that how you have to surrender to the Lord. So that is why he came as a bhakta. So we all know that there is a very famous sloka. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam. So Bhaktavataram Bhaktapyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. So Bhaktarupa. So he came in the form of a devotee. So these purposes are visible in Satya, Treta, and Dwapara Yuga, but in Kali Yuga, Lord appeared in disguise. So that's what we have seen. So Lord never used any weapon in Kali Yuga because he came in a disguised form. He does not kill any demons and he does not kill demons and give protection to the faithful, because the Lord is not directly perceived in Kali Yuga but directly known in other three yugas in his name as Three Yuga. So that was the confirmation which was given by Prabhupada for us. So what the question which was asked by Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya. So till here we have seen that the main context is that Lord's mercy is required. Other than Lord's mercy, it is very difficult for us to understand about the Lord. So from 96 to 104, Gopinath Acharya gives different shastric references or evidences to show that Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. सुनिया आचार्य कहे दुखी हन मने शास्त्रज्ञ करी न तुम्ही कर अभिमाने. Upon hearing this, Gopinath Acharya became very unhappy. He said to Bhaṭṭācārya, you considered yourself as the knower of all the Vedic scriptures. Because Bhaṭṭācārya was asking different Shastric references. So he was very unhappy, because devotees, they feel very unhappy when they don't try to understand others, when they don't try to understand about the Lord. So let us see further what Gopinath Acharya says. भगवता भारत दुई शास्त्रेरा प्रधान से दुई ग्रंथ वाक्य नाही अवधान. Srimad Bhagavatam and Mahabharata are the most two important Vedic scriptures, but we have not paid attention to their statements. So Gopinath Acharya is saying that you might have read all the other scriptures, but main evidences come from Srimad Bhagavatam and Mahabharata. We all know that these are the two important scriptures because Mahabharata consists of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. We all know the pastimes of the Lord and his devotees. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam. So that is considered as the topmost pramana to understand about the Lord. सेदुई कहे कलिते साक्षात अवतारा तुम्ही कहा कलिते नाही विष्णुरा प्रचारा. In Srimad Bhagavata and the Mahabharata, it is stated that the Lord appears directly, but you say that in this age there is no manifestation or incarnation of Vishnu. So there are evidences. That's what Gopinath Acharya says in that he appears directly. He's counter arguing what Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya said that there are no references. So here Gopinath Acharya is saying that there are references that says that Lord appears directly. So you are unable to understand. Kaliyuga Lilavatara Nakare Bhagavan Ateyeva Triyuga Kari Kahitara Namam. In this age of Kali, there is no Lila avatar of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is known as the Triyuga. That is one of the holy. So, in this Kali Yuga, Lord does not come in Lila avatar, but he comes in the Yuga avatar. So that's what we'll come to know. And further, for this, Prabhupada says that a Lila avatar is incarnation of the Lord who performs a variety of activities without making any special endeavor. He always has one pastime after another, all are full of transcendental pleasure, and all these pastimes are fully controlled by the Supreme Person. The Supreme Person is totally independent of all the other these pastimes. While teaching Sanatan Goswami, so Mahaprabhu pointed out that one cannot count the number of Leela avatars. So here Mahaprabhu said in the 20th chapter, even Suta Goswami in the first canto, third chapter, after explaining, I think 20 or 22 incarnations of the Lord, he says, Avatarahi Asankheya. So there are different incarnations of the Lord, and to list out the incarnations of the Lord is very difficult. So that's what it says. And he has quoted some of the avatars. So the Lord incarnations were enumerated, including Matsya, fish incarnation, Kurma, tortoise, Lord Ramachandra, Nisimhadev, Vamandev, Varaha, Boar. Thus there are innumerable Leela avatars. So that's what it is said. And all of these are exhibit wonderful pastimes. Lord Varaha Boar incarnation lifted the entire planet Earth from the deep depths of the Garbhodaka ocean. The tortoise incarnation Lord Kurma became a pivot for the emulsification of the whole sea, and Lord Narsimha appears as half man, half lion. These are some of the wonderful and uncommon features of the Leela Avatar. So Prabhupada explains over this. Even in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Rupa Goswami quoted some of the Leela avatars, that is 25 Leela avatars of the Lord. And so further Prabhupada concludes saying that Mahaprabhu is not mentioned in the Leela avatar because he is an incarnation in disguise, that is Channa avatar. And in the age of Kali also, there are no Leela avatars, but only there is an incarnation of Lord manifested in a body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this sloka we all know that will come in the later verses. This is the last verse. Pratiyuge karena Krishna yuga avatara tarkanishta hridaya tumara nahika vichara. Gopinath Acharya continued. There is certainly an incarnation in every age, and such an incarnation is called as Yuga Avatara. But your heart has become so hardened by logic and argument that you cannot consider all these facts, because they are based upon only on the Anumana, so on the hypothesis. So Gopinath Acharya is saying that in every age there will be an incarnation. So it may not be a Leela avatar, it can be a Yoga avatar also. That's what here Mahaprabhu says. So in conclusion to the previous set of verses regarding the mercy of Lord, I'll just give a small. So we all know that in Damodar Leela, so whenever Yashoda Mata tried to bind Lord, so it was less with two fingers. So we all know that what Acharya say, one is our endeavor, the second one is mercy of the Lord. So both are required. So mostly both go simultaneously, but most is the mercy of the Lord. So without mercy of the Lord, we cannot understand about him. So this is the conclusion of the set of verses which I tried to glorify. If I have done anything wrong, so please correct me. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji and Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandatanam. Thank you so much, Mataji, for nicely explaining the wonderful discussion between Gopinathacharya and Sārvabhauma. So this is slowly taking us to most ecstatic and important discussion between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sārvabhauma, and maybe in coming weeks, I don't know, maybe it will take another 1 or 2 weeks rather. So it is so nice to hear from you, Mataji. Very, very beautifully explained, nicely explained. Devotees, do you have any questions, comments? Hare
Krishna Mataji, thank you very much for a wonderful session today. Mataji, you mentioned that, of course, Prabhupada mentioned that one should not read 10th canto of Bhagavatam. We should read canto by canto, page by page. But like the urgency of, like, we want to, when one should read 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that is what my question, Mataji.
Prabhu, what I heard in my Bhakti Vaibhav class is through Gaurang Darshan Prabhu, because in the second canto, I think in the first chapter, where the cosmic manifestation, that is material world, is explained. So there, I think in the purport, Prabhu mentions that first he'll mention about the lower planetary system, that how they are compared to the body parts of the Lord, if you remember. So there, even Gaurang Darshan Prabhu said that this is the way you should try to see the Lord, and even studying also should be done in such a way only. When you come to that particular, when you can have the ability to understand, then only go to Srimad Bhagavatam, or else for us only, so mercifully Prabhupada gave Krishna book. I think Krishna book we can try to read so that we can understand. That is my understanding, Prabhu.
But Krishna book is also 10th canto of Bhagavatam only, Mataji. So what is the difference?
Correct, yeah. Prabhu, but as Prabhupada gave in a story format, maybe especially Rasapantya Adhyay, especially those 5 chapters, they are considered as very keen. So I feel that we should have that particular understanding. Then only we can read it, Prabhu. That's what my opinion. Others, Ramanand Prabhu, please add on.
Thank you, Mataji. Prabhu, further to what Mataji explained, first, unless we understand the greatness of the Creator, we cannot understand the Creator. So greatness of Creator we can understand by knowing what activities extraordinary activities he has done. So for us, since we are in this material world, so always a matter of astonishing fact to us is that how this is the whole creation has happened. So everything is happening so systematically. So like when we eat, we don't know what is happening inside, but we become healthy. Energies. So science comes out with so many theories, but why and how this systematically happening? What arrangement has been made? So this is the creation of the Lord. So what Acharyas explain is Prabhupada was very particular to say that don't jump to 10th canto, because all other cantos brief about the Creator is given, his incarnations are given, and the glories of his creation. Like we are going through in Bhakti Vaibhav also, systematically we are trying to cover. We are not reached the 10th canto, but now we are trying to understand the greatness of the creation. Sometimes we feel that what is this? Why are we studying all this? It looks more theoretical, like the whole Bhumandala and all these things. We said we are devotees. Why we are concerned with all these things? For us to take us to that stage of realizing the supremacy, realizing the greatness of Lord. So Prabhupada said that one has to systematically go through and understand. So by the time we reach 10th canto, at least we will be on that platform to appreciate the greatness of Supreme Lord. What a wonderful creation he has done. Then we start enjoying, relishing his confidential pastimes. Otherwise, if you start reading 10th canto, mainly those Mataji mentioned, very crucial, critical part of 10th canto. We feel that it may be a chichora hai. Like he is, some roaming with some girls, and so this is what impression. So we cannot reach. But as Madhya also explained, that Prabhupada has given out of his mercy, he has given Krishna book, the summary of a 10th canto in the form of Krishna book, in the story form, so that those who are curious, even devotees, as we start reading other cantos, if we read parallelly Krishna book, not the Bhagavatam 10th canto directly, though it is a summary of a 10th canto, because Sri Prabhupada was not very sure whether he will be able to be there till he finishes 10th canto. So he has given in advance so that we get his causeless mercy. So that is my understanding.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for add-on. I have one more question, Mataji. Can I ask, or is time up, Prabhu?
Yeah, Prabhu, if I can
Yeah,
answer, I'll answer. Please.
Like in the conversation, Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya is telling that, like you mentioned that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Kali Yuga, the Vishnu incarnation is not there. But in all the references, it is mentioned that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than combined form of Radha and Krishna. So how to understand that, Mataji?
Prabhu, that's what it is not. Even a Garga Muni, when the Nama naming ceremony was happening, so there also he mentioned, I think in the 10th canto, 3rd chapter. So there also he mentioned that he appeared. But here, Lord did not appear in a direct form, Prabhu, in a disguised form. So that only through the evidence, as we know in the 11th canto, 5th chapter, Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam, and even in Vishnu Sahasranama. So these are the indirect evidences to show about Mahaprabhu, but it's not mentioned directly. That's what I understand, Prabhuji. That's the reason he couldn't understand. That will come to know in the later verses. Gopinath Acharya gives different explanations about Mahaprabhu that is non-different from Krishna. That's what we'll see, Prabhu. Hope I answered your question, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mother. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Vishnu Tattva only, na Mataji?
Not Vishnu Tattva, na Prabhu. He is direct Krishna only, na Prabhu.
But
Krishna Varna, that's what it is mentioned.
Yeah.
But no, in 11th canto, 5th chapter, it is mentioned 32nd verse, Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam. So he is Krishna only, but he came in the mood of Radharani. Because he doesn't want to be, even when I think Swarup Damodar said, no, somewhere I read, Prabhu, that because of your mercy, he never accepted himself as Lord. He always thought himself as a devotee. So that was that we can understand that he is in disguised form. Only for pure devotees, they could understand that he is Lord himself. This is my understanding, Prabhuji.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Hare
Udarshan
Hare Krishna, I understand that which question asked by Nityananda Singh Prabhu. Prabhu, this one, it has been mentioned here that Bhagavatam and Mahabharata are the main topics where we can read about it. Even that, Prabhu, nowadays many people have raising the question that because Radharani's name is not mentioned in this both of Grantha, we say that even the Shukdev Maharaj has not taken up it. There's another so they question the existence of Radharani. Many people say it's come on the Brahma Vaivarta Puran that has not been written by the Veda Vyasa. It's been written later, something like that. It's coming many things. So it's all the confusion. Brahma has been created. who wants to get Brahmit, go in an illusion, they can, Krishna's provide the full facility to him to go in a illusion. So our focus is that our acharyas, which has been suggested us, we should go according to that. And then only we will be able to understand, or the layer by layer, the Krishna's Leelas and all these things. Even the Krishna's book, you will see that Rasa Panchadhyayas has not been explained very well. That was the main purpose. Even I have encountered one person who has read the 10th canto. In between, just he was reading as a book. And after reading the 10th canto, he becomes so disguised. He has left everything and he says, no, Krishna is just one of, the womanizer, that's all. So he even didn't. So these things can come in anybody's mind. So that's why they are telling not to go for 10th canto. So that's the best way. Whatever our system is telling, whatever our Parampara is telling, we should follow them. And reasons will be coming up. This will be revealed as we go down. But we just have to follow them, because people will ask many things about it. Even the appearance of the Radharani has been not described anywhere. Even the people can question the existence of the Radharani, Srimati Radharani. So you have to go these things. You have to take in as the Guru Parampara's results. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji, to add on the points. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I think we have Neeraj Prabhu. We wanted to add something.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Just Prabhuji, Mataji, one question. We also hear about the Kalki avatar. So where it is mentioned means that is also at the end of the Kali Yuga is mentioned he will come. So is it not from the Shastras or?
Prabhu, if I'm not wrong, Prabhu, in the first canto, in the 3rd chapter, I think when Suta Goswami spoke of different incarnations, there, when does Kalki avatar come, who is his father, everything is mentioned, Prabhu. I read it, I think in the 3rd chapter, if I'm not wrong. Because I didn't go to further cantos, Prabhuji. So I read, Prabhuji, I think so. If I'm wrong, please others can correct me. Because it is mentioned.
He will come in the Kali Yuga. So we were discussing that there will not be any avatar in the Kali Yuga of the Vishnu, Lord Vishnu.
No. After once the Kalki avatar comes, Prabhu, after that annihilation will take place at the end of life of Brahma. Again, whenever Lord feels, then only creation will be. That's what I have read. I think in the 3rd chapter, if I'm not wrong. I'm not so sure, Prabhu. In first canto, I think I read. If I'm wrong, please other devotees can correct me.
Other question, Mataji, just the query that we understand that why we shall not read the 10th canto, because we should understand completely about the Lord, and then only, and also we should have that much consciousness, then only we are qualified and we can understand Lord's extraordinary pastime in the 10th canto. What may be the mood of the Srila Prabhupada when he made the Krishna book, because that is more or less nothing but the 10th canto, and that is something separate book, so it may be accessible to everybody, you know. So just maybe some query came to my mind. Maybe all of you can clarify.
Yeah, Prabhu, as Ramanand Prabhu mentioned, so because Prabhupada wants to give, because as he knew that he's just like Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami has, he gave us Chaitanya Charitamrita. Even Prabhupada, because I think in the 14th chapter, I think when Prabhupada didn't start, I think till 10.13 only Prabhupada gave his purpose to 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he knew that and he gave us so that we can read and we can at least understand what Ashraya, how an Ashraya should be taken. That is my understanding, Prabhuji. That is what. Other than that, because Prabhu, if you read in Chaitanya Charitamrita, until Lila also, there are very high level of that pastimes which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does, which is very difficult to understand, Prabhu. So that's what they say, that only we should just read as it is and we should not think in a mundane way. That is my understanding, Prabhuji.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji.
So we should try to understand the scriptures from Acharya's perspective, not from our perspective, because we still not that we should not have these doubts. So it is natural that we have these doubts and questions, but try to understand them from the perspective of Acharyas. because they are learned, we are learning. So when we hear from the learned and try to understand from their perspective, then everything will be revealed. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for asking these wonderful questions, and thank you, Sacipremi Mataji, for, and also thank you, VP Vaidya Prabhu, for giving the reference of Kalki incarnation. So, if there are no any questions and comments further, so we'll end the session here. Mataji, you finished it. Which was?
100. Till 100 I have done, Prabhuji.
Was 100. Okay, Mataji. So,
Chetan Charitamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So Nitesh Prabhu has given the next week service to me. So I will continue from verse 101 onwards. Thank you very much, Nitesh Prabhu.